Good morning. As you will probably hear from my accent, I'm originally Italian. I come from a small city called Caserta, which I bet none of you has ever heard of. But you may be more familiar with this, the Vesuvius, which is in Naples. Naples, Italy, not Florida. And Caserta is just 20 kilometers from Naples and the amazing Amalfi Coast, and it should be just as world famous because of the amazing royal palace that we have, with over 3 kilometers gardens and fountains and waterfall. Even Star Trek was recorded here. Yet they only hired the marketing directors 2 years ago. So we're going to get there, and in the meantime, take advice from me. If you ever go to south of Italy, do visit Caserta. I grew up in Caserta. For 19 years, I was witnessing the poor local administration, very often negligence and corruption, happening for the win of few at the expenses of many. I was surrounded by people that thought that life was about sacrifice, working hard. They accepted the poor quality of life that our city offered, the very slow and malfunctioning public administration, and they did not capitalize on the amazing treasures, local heritage that we had. They were complaining about it, but they accepted it. They thought it was normal. For me, it seemed that it put a cap on their potential happiness. And I didn't get it. I didn't want to live that way. I thought, why are they accepting this? Isn't life about being happy? Isn't happiness the full purpose of life, just as Aristotle had concluded 2,500 years before? So since studying literature and philosophy did not provide me with the answers to my question, when time came to choose the university, I decided to try and understand happiness through the lenses of economics. So I moved to Rome, where for 5 years I lived and studied economics, and then I moved for 6 months to the Netherlands to doing an internship at Forrester Research. That was 2002, the time when Bruce Camping was just coming up with the concept of customer experience. I wrote my master thesis about it, and then I graduated and came back to the Netherlands and never left. And basically, that's where I live now with my family. And for 13 years, or since 2002, I've been a customer experience doer and believer. I worked for a number of different companies in different customer experience roles, and I always used the focus on customer experience to drive revenue, loyalty, word of mouth, even lower cost, and having a profit and growth follow as a result. Yet, I thought that there was something missing, that there was something more to it. Even when in 2005, 5 years ago, I started my own consultancy company, Wow Now, which was about customer-driven growth and helping companies use customer experience and voice of the customer in order to drive change, it felt that customer-driven growth was not enough, and sometimes even misleading, as certain management approach suggested that we should add pain into the experience. Pain, I wonder, purposely created? Why? Some pain may happen anyhow at some point in the experience, because no matter how well we plan, design, and deliver, hiccups will happen. So why would we want to add pain by design? For me, it was about something more. It was really about bringing more happiness into the world, one interaction at a time. That was my why. My dream is to live in a world where companies design and deliver products, services, and experience which are meaningful and enrich people's life, and where business models see companies, stakeholders, employees, customers, all as human beings with one common shared goal: a more peaceful, healthy, and happier life. For me, it was about in which world would I rather live in. And if we look at the advancement of the progression of evolution in business, or if you prefer, at the different management approaches we have there, we see that we have, in business point 1, business is only about maximizing shareholder value and profit. In business point 2, it's about the customer. So it's about creating and keeping customers. If we look at business point 3, instead, it's about employees first, because you cannot have happy customers unless you have happy, engaged employee. And then comes version 4.0, where it's about having purpose first. Business should start by understanding why they do what they do. In the words of Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. To me, it seems like the old millennial discussions about what is at the center of the solar system, the Earth or the Sun. So for me, we are at the cross where we can start to realize that actually it is, or it should be, happiness at the center. I believe that companies can contribute to happiness for everyone. Happiness for the customers that they serve, happiness for the employees that work within the organization, but also happiness for the society. And if we look at the value of happiness, happiness really matters for business. Why? Because when our customers and our employees are happy, we can have profitable growth. Because happy customers are the most profitable one, because they're 4.5 times more willing to pay a price premium, 2.7 times more likely to keep doing business with you. They also are more likely to recommend you to friends and colleagues, and they forgive you more, and they provide you valuable feedback for improvements. On the other side of the question, happy employees generate 20% lower turnover, are 17% more profitable, and 20% more productive. They also are more creative and more innovative. So happy customers and happy employees, they actually drive profitable growth. So happiness should be the new important metrics in business. And we see that there are many innovative companies that are already pursuing happiness at the center. They are creating experience which are meaningful and enrichful for the employees in the organization and for the customers outside. Zappos has made delivering happiness their mission, and profitability has followed. And there are more companies out there that they are doing so. So last year, I set up at some point to collect more examples of those companies that are already putting happiness at the center. And at about the same time, I received an email from Stan announcing his book, Pink Goldfish. I was already familiar with the work of Stan and the purple goldfish concept, and I loved it. So I reached back to him by saying, hey, why don't we write Yellow Goldfish about happiness? And he was immediately into it, so that's where we are then today. So why yellow? Yellow is the primary color which it gets most associated with words like warmth, cheer, happiness. Why? Because we associate it with the sun. But interestingly enough, the sun is actually not yellow, it's white. We perceive it as yellow because of the wavelength in the atmosphere. And even though we need the sun to exist, and plants need the sun to grow, if we look straight into the sun, we get blinded. So there is this beautiful metaphor by Tal Ben-Shahar, which is a leading expert in happiness, which says that happiness is just like the sun. If we look straight into it, we get blinded. If we pursue happiness directly, we get actually unhappy. What we should do is to pursue happiness indirectly, by doing the things that make us happy. And what are those things in a business context? What can businesses do in order to increase happiness indirectly? Together with Stan, we collected over 275 examples in our Yellow Goldfish crowdsourcing project, and we start analyzing them all, and we find that there are 9 types of yellow goldfish, those little extra that companies can do to increase happiness for employees, customers, and society. And we very conveniently identify those under the acronyms of happiness. So the 9 things, the 9 ways a company can use are health, autonomy, purpose, play, integrity, nature, which stands both for experiencing nature and delight by design, so beauty, empathy, simplicity, and smile, which is also about celebration and acknowledgement and rewarding. The 2 that we will focus on today are really autonomy and empathy. Autonomy is about enabling your employees to do the right things at the right time by providing them with the right tools, processes, technology, and budget to do so. The example that we choose here is from Ritz-Carlton. Ritz-Carlton provides $2,000 paid employees to do whatever they feel it's right to do in order to surprise their customers. And it seems like a massive amount of money, but actually the average customer lifetime revenue of an Ritz-Carlton customers is $250,000, so it's very well worth it. The next one is empathy. For empathy, it's about connection. It's about feelings, the same feelings, and seeing the world as the other sees it, and being able to connect with him. For this one, we choose the example of H.A.P.P.I.N.E.S.S. H.A.P.P.I.N.E.S.S is the main Dutch telco operator, and a few years ago, they found out that they were having a very high number of calls for cancellation at a very critical lifetime event, the death of a family member. The next of kin were calling the normal contact center for cancellation, trying to cancel their subscription, and the retention team were asking them, why do you really want to cancel? Don't you want to stay with us? Can we not offer this? Can we not offer that? And eventually, after they canceled, they were even getting phone calls and emails, how can we win you back? So that really didn't work. So they took a human-centered approach to analyze the situation, redesign a new team, and they created a completely separate contact center, the Nabestande desk, which is here in the photo, and you see also the prize that they got on the bottom. Those people receive a special training on how to interact with people who have just lost a family member, which call with a lot of grief. And on top of all, they also have a very special Yellow Goldfish, which is to be able to offer to the family member a recording of the voicemail of the deceased, which in many cases is the only recording of the voice of the deceased that people have. This really makes a difference to people's life. It's something so small, but the contribution and the meaning of this contribution, it's massive. And that's the type of examples that we have collected to inspire many more companies to do so, to realize that they can actually make difference in people's life, that we build the world that we live in, and we can build a world that contributes more and more to our happiness. So how do you create those type of yellow goldfish? Also here we picked an acronym which is very convenient for you to remember, which is GROWTH. What does GROWTH stand for? It stands for grounding, so really understanding the basis of your seed and the customers that you're dealing with. It stands for reaching up, like aiming for more, and finding the knowledge, the frameworks, the tools that will allow you to do so. Operationalizing it, put it into contents, and actually find all the right processes and tools and technology. Then finally, being able to wow, to blossom. And after that, or sometimes before that, like we will see in the case I will share with you, take the time. Time is essential for reflection, for innovation, for creativity, but also for recharge our batteries. And when you do this, you can harvest amazing results. So the example that we picked here is an example from General Electric's healthcare and MRI machine. A few years ago, Gow.T.H had just made this new brand machine for a kid's scan. And he was so proud of this new machine that he decided to take the time to get out of his laboratory and go to the hospital to see the machine in action and enjoy the joy of the customers going into the machine. So guess what? When he arrived there and he started looking at the first customer, it was the first patient, it was a little girl. And she looked terrified. And she was crying. And she was hanging on her parents, and she didn't want to go in the machine. That was his grounding moment. The moment in which he could see the world from the eyes and from the heart of this little girl. And he realized, in his own words, that the machine he had made and spent years on building was just like a brick with a hole in it for the little girl. So what did he do? He went back to his office and he decided to reach up. He decided to change the game. So he went to the Stanford Design School. He learned everything he could learn about design thinking, a human-centered approach, and he set up a team to operationalize all of the new learnings that he had. And then it was time for WOW blossoming through this. He created the Adventure series. He completely redesigned not so much the product, but the experience around the product. And what happened this time, the first time that he observed a patient going in, the little kids were all excited going into the machine, like we're waiting to jump into it. They no longer needed sedation. And when they get out of the machine, they actually turned to their parents and went, "Can we do this again tomorrow?" Like, that was for him, finally. He had really reached happiness-driven growth. He had changed in an impactful and meaningful way the life of those kids, of their parents, which were no longer stressed, of the employees, which no longer had to fight to get anyone in the machine. But there was even more harvest. And that was that before, like 80% of those kids needed sedation to go into the machine. That required an anesthesiologist, if I can pronounce that right, which means that they also take 10 to 15 minutes for every kid to go in the machine. It would take time less, so they could only do a very limited number of scans every day, requiring top medical. After this, those anesthesiologists were no longer needed. Sedation was no longer needed, which meant financially, it also had a great impact. Not only they needed less doctors, but they could actually do even more scans on a day, which at societal level meant we could actually save even more life. So the impact of those little or big yellow goldfish can be absolutely massive. And that is why with Stan we have written Yellow Goldfish, which is coming live on Amazon on the 18th of September. And we'll have all of those examples. So for now, I want to leave you with a question. What will your yellow goldfish be? Thank you.